to Gene a little bit of your story
Sure.
because as somebody, so at one point in your life, you had like normal eyesight.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that a true that's true, right?
Well, yeah, I was completely sighted. Of course, I did wear glasses, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I was completely sighted until 1999. And I had a bad accident. And Cameron, you could either tell the story or I'll tell the story. But
I want to tell the story.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go
You had
ahead.
you had a shit-eating grin when you said that, Cameron.
Oh yeah,
Oh
oh
man.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. This is one of his favorite about how I lost my
Well,
sight.
and here's
Yeah,
why it's funny. So we have a group of friends, we work with all blind people.
right,
And so we all have reasons, Dom, of why we're blind.
right.
And and for the most part, all of our reasons are boring. We have this disease, or we have that disease, or we're born with this ailment. Uh,
Ailment.
Genes is Genes is hysterical.
Oh my god.
Okay, so Gene was drunk.
Oh shit.
Well, first of all, I have to tell you this, that I also was an awesome sailor. I used to race on sailboats
Oh,
and even,
that's awesome.
and even got the chance to try out for the All Women's America's Cup
She
team.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and we were at a regatta. And of course, little does everybody know, but I'm sure they do, that there's a little drinking that goes on after the race is over.
Oh
So
yeah, one can imagine.
So anyway, Gene's hammered.
Notice I'm laughing.
Gene is slosh, and she's hanging out on this tower drinking
With her friend.
with a
Yeah.
married man,
Right. Uh-huh. Just a friend.
Gene,
Just a friend.
and they go to climb down the tower, and this part's not funny. They go to climb down the tower, and Gene fell,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
injured her head, and she had head trauma.
Oh
And she
shit.
could explain the medical side of it, but
Oh yeah.
inevitably it resulted in her blindness.
My optic nerves got crushed when I fell. And so I was
Ooh.
immediately blinded and had to be medevaced off the island.
So
Oh my god.
here's why that doesn't sound funny. I understand. Here's
No.
why it's funny. So I asked her one day. I said, "What tower did you fall off of? Was it a water tower? Was it like what tower?" And she said, "It was a sightseeing tower." And I said, "You have got to be kidding me!" I said, "You fell off a sightseeing tower and went blind?" I said, "That's the most ironic shit I've ever heard in my life."
I'm dead. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bro, that was literally one of the best stories I've ever heard. And like
And
that
I
was
fell in a bush, which probably
god.
changed my life,
Fell on a bush off the sightseeing tower and went blind.
lost my sight. Right. I had the sight taken right out of me by the sightseeing
Oh
tower.
my
You need to go
goodness.
on a
Well,
boat or something.
well, and that's what all the best jokes have, that little hint of like tragedy in them. Like all best comics, all best stories. But no, that first off, you guys are awesome for even being able to laugh at that. B, that was a hilarious, awesome story. And C, that is,
Oh, and wait, let me just say one more thing, Dom. That's why if all your viewers are looking at my face, I suffered some brain damage. So when I smile, my smile is crooked and my left eyebrow does not go up because of the nerve damage that I suffered.
I'm just ugly.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
Hey, I don't got no excuses over here either. That is wild. I've had some traumatic injuries myself that have like impacted me moving forward, but nothing obviously to that level. And I can only imagine. So do you wake up a couple of days later in the hospital, or are you cognizant of like what's happening, or like
No.
what?
That's what happened was actually I have a they call it traumatic basically it's a traumatic loss of memory. So that because of the traumatic injury, I don't remember any of that period of time. And still to this day, I don't.
No,
And
you don't. You remember what you had for breakfast.
well, that's a different story. No, but seriously though, I was in the hospital for, I would say about 3 months
Wow.
because not only did it damage, of course, my eyesight and my optic nerves, but I also had brain fluid that was coming out of my nose.
Holy hell.
So that I have a scar that goes from one ear to the other, and they had to do some serious operations. So
Wow.
I was in the hospital for several months and have no memory of part of it.
Until they told you
Wow.
that you were blinded by irony.
And they really told me I tried to escape from my room at one point. They literally, because I had had enough, I was going home.
I mean, you were blind. You
Wow.
probably didn't get far.
No, I don't.
Wow.
Especially with one of those gowns on.
Did you grab your cane to try to escape?
I didn't have a cane yet. I didn't have a cane
Oh,
yet.
well, then you didn't even get out of the room.
Right, right. Probably not. But anyway, but yeah, so I don't have a memory of any of that really. Um,
No, it's probably, I
and
mean, do you
the
consider
other
that
thing
like a blessing? Is that a weird
oh,
question? Or
total blessing.
yeah.
And the thing that I do remember the most is though is that I would that the blessing that I did have was that as soon as I was able to start figuring things out, I ended up living with my mother for a while, and I was able to get help through the state. And they sent somebody down, got me a cane, I started learning how to read Braille and um, so, and for whatever reason, in my mind, I didn't crawl under a rock. I was
Wow.
completely open and adapting to figuring out how to cope with my situation. And I learned how to
Wow.
read Braille really quickly. Got out, got myself around. I even had a guide dog for about 3 years. And so I was able to adapt and acclimate. Absolutely.
That's
Let
what
me
she
ask you this.
said.
What for about approximately how much time between like getting released from the hospital and like would you say like just being like confident, being comfortable with like your new circumstances? Like, like what's that learning curve look like? Like,
Well, for me, of course, I was in the hospital, like I said, for about 3 months.
yeah, yeah.
And as soon as I was out of the hospital, I was already on top of figuring out what I was going to do next.
Wow.
So, and I would say that it wasn't more than a month or two before I was in contact with I was living in New Hampshire at the time, with the New Hampshire Department of the Blind, and they had somebody down, and I was starting to go up to sessions there and get into contact with other people that are blind. And then the other fantastic thing I did shortly thereafter, maybe a month or two, 3 months after, I went to another place called, it's in Massachusetts, and it's a location for people to basically, who are blind or visually impaired, to become independent.
It's a lot
Okay.
like where we work now.
Yeah, it is very similar, very similar.
Oh, so
So
that's like kind of like the type of work y'all both do now?
Well, yes and no.
no, we're
We
not in the rehabs. We're
no,
not in the rehab department.
we do work in a facility that has a rehab department
Yeah, yeah.
that
Okay,
it does
okay.
teach people how to cope with being blind and living alone. But that is not the department that Gene and I work in.
The But yeah, so in my bad, just like I'm really curious about just like the like I guess more specifically like so like the amount of time like that like when you say like learning to cope or like the amount of time, I guess, I don't know if you want to use your own examples or just like the average amount of time from other people that you guys have met, but like how long does it take, I guess, just a human being to adapt to being blind? And I imagine there's like a broad stroke answer of like it never really stops, or it's a constant process, but like how long to like somebody's like can't do anything by themselves to like can live a functional life by themselves? Like how long does that take?
Well, I can speak when I speak for myself as a person who had sight before. Um, Cameron, of course, was born blind, but as a person who saw before, because I could see before, I had images in my head about what things looked like. So I was able to adapt a little bit quicker, I think, in some senses.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and also I had an open mind towards it. So I
Yeah.
think that's a critical factor as well.
Mindset is absolutely critical.
Yeah, mindset. Yeah, absolutely. And they do like at the like I was telling you about this place that I went to. They went so far as to have us do things like for mobility, we did fencing. We did,
Wow.
yeah, we did fencing for mobility to be comfortable just moving around. We learned how to use woodworking tools that were fitted and that were audible. For instance, there was a measuring tape that was audible. There was a device that we could put a nail in that would hold the nail to a piece of wood, and we could bash on that with a hammer instead of our fingers. So there's so many adaptable things out there, or ways of doing things, um, that you people who are sighted never thought of before. But once you hear about it, it's like, yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like, for instance, that I always tell people about is, how do you pour something into a hot pot as a blind person on the stove, right?
Yeah,
With,
that would
with
be
an
hard, it
elevated
seems.
camera. Well, all you have to do is take a spoon and kind of go across and bash it into the sides a little bit, tap it into the sides. I shouldn't use such terrible language, but and you find kind of the center of the pot and you pour against the spoon and it goes right into the pot.
Yeah.
But there are techniques like that that we learn to adapt that are fantastic. Um,
Jean asked me the other day. Uh, I was telling her that I was wearing a Royal shirt, very similar to the one I'm
yeah,
wearing now,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
she said, you have all those sports shirts, and I said, yeah. She said, well, how do you tell them all apart?
Because he doesn't have a pen friend yet.
Because I don't have one of those pin friends like she's got, and I said, I
Yeah,
just feel the designs. I said,
yeah,
almost every design on a t-shirt is, unless it's sewn into the fabric, which some are, but most designs on t-shirts have been labeled or printed on there, and I can feel it.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense for sure.